todos, bienvenido a la primera lección donde voy a hablar de cómo crecí en los Estados Unidos. Voy a hablar inglés ahora. So, welcome to this first lesson for you, for the Spanish speakers, so you can know how it was for me growing up in the United States. So, growing up in the United States, I grew up in the Chicago area. I was born in Chicago, raised in the suburbs of Chicago, and growing up there was great. It's a very multicultural area with people from different places, different backgrounds, different languages. Spanish is a big language spoken in Chicago. Polish also another one. Spanish is the second biggest language spoken there. So if you do come to Chicago, you will have the opportunity to speak your native language. I know you probably want to speak English, and you will have a lot of opportunity to speak English because the majority of the people do only speak English. But when you go to certain places, certain restaurants, or certain stores, certain neighborhoods, you can be greeted in Spanish. So for me, growing up was fun, and I had the opportunity to do different things, different sports growing up. Intramural volleyball, intramural basketball. That's when you play volleyball or basketball against people in your own school. So I did that in fourth and fifth grade. This is before high school. This would be elementary school, as we call it in the United States. Elementary school, you might want to look that up. And then also, I did youth football, and that's American football. So not soccer or football, as you may say in your country. So another thing I did want to let you know, most of the Spanish speakers in Chicago are from Mexico. There are some people from Puerto Rico. There are also people from Honduras and other Central American countries. So as I stated, growing up there was fun. I had the opportunity to meet a lot of different people. I was impressed with people's English skills who were from Spanish speaking countries, and those people motivated me to want to learn Spanish, right? And I also, in high school, I did football for a couple years again. As I said, that's American football. And you'll hear that a lot in the United States. People just say football for American football. I did that for a couple years. I was in theater too. I had the opportunity to be in a couple plays and perform in English. That's where I get this great English enunciation or pronunciation, and the opportunity to be in diverse organizations. In high school, there's a lot of different organizations for people to be a part of. I was in student council. So that's another thing you can look up, student council. And so high school was a great opportunity for me to meet different people too, to be in different classes, to learn about different things about the United States, to learn about history, geography, science, of course, math, of course, Spanish. I took Spanish also. That's one of the reasons why I speak the language at a high level. So I know every country is different. So how you grew up may be different from how I grew up. And I know that I know some countries, when you go to school, you're with your same classmates every single year, and the teachers come into the class. That's what I've heard. But in the United States, when we're in school, we're with around the same classmates, but we go to different classes. So starting in fifth grade, you would go to different classes, and you'd have different teachers. Sixth grade, that's middle school. Sixth and seventh and eighth grade, you go to different classes, and you'd have different classmates, and there's different teachers. So let's say at 7 a.m. you go to math class, 7:45 you go to English, then 8 something you go to science, 9 something you have gym, around 10 you have another class, 11 you have lunch. So it was kind of like that. And high school is similar. So high school, you go to your first class. Then I remember I had a gym in the morning. That was like my first class. So you go to gym, and with gym you do stuff, different sports. That's what gym is. So let's say I played, we played basketball in gym, or football or soccer, or hockey or tennis. So those are the different things that we did when I was in school. So yeah, that was how it was for me growing up. I love growing up in the United States. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And I can't wait to see you in the next lesson. Hasta pronto. Hola a todos, ahora quiero hablar sobre el argot de Chicago, Chicago slang, el argot de Chicago. So yeah, when you come to the United States, each city and region has different slang, just like you may have different slang in your country. I know in Argentina, you may say certain things. In Mexico, you may say certain things. In Spain, you may say certain things. Panama, Colombia, there's differences in where you're from. And that's the same in the United States and other English speaking countries. So for us, Chicago, one of the first things that you'll hear for a soft drink like a Coke or a Pepsi or Sprite or 7 Up, instead of saying soda, which is a word that I don't even like saying because we don't say it, we say pop. P-O-P. Pop, pop, pop. If you go to Chicago and you say the word pop, people will think you're from Chicago. Well, they may not think you're from Chicago, but they would think you know about Chicago, that you've been living in Chicago, because that's what we say for a soft drink. We say pop. And you'll see it. You'll go to a restaurant. Let's say you go to a chicken restaurant and it'll have the prices of the chicken thighs, chicken wings, and it'll say fries for French fries, and there will be pop also listed. Maybe pop will be $1 or $1.20 or 80 cents. So pop, that's one of the biggest things that we say in Chicago. Another thing, the highway. There's highways, and in some parts of the United States, they're called highways or freeways, free because you don't have to pay. But in Chicago area, you have to pay if you go to certain areas on the highway. So we call it either the tollway or the expressway. Some people, even with more slang, call it the E-way. It's short for expressway, so tollway. I usually say the tollway or the highway. Oh, you're going to take the tollway to such and such town, or you're taking the tollway here, you're taking the tollway there. Also, with the highways, there's different names. So you'll hear this person takes the Dan Ryan, or this person's taking the Eisenhower or Ike for short. So that's very different. I know in your country you may say autopista numero such and such. So that's the thing, the highway or the tollway. That's different in Chicago. Um, what else do we say? We say a lot of different things. Oh, so you may say, some people may say carro or coche, depending on your country of origin. And you know what that means in English? Car. So we say, so that's how it's pronounced in regular English. Car, C-A-R, car. Some people in Chicago, we call it the hoods, in los barrios, in the hoods of Chicago, they say ka, pronounce it ka. Or store, una tienda, instead of saying store, they say stall. I'm taking my car to the stall. So yeah, so that's very much Chicago, car and stall. Depending on where you're from, depending on the area. I do want to let you know that some people from outside of Chicago make fun of Chicagoans for the sports teams, because the football team, the national football team, is the Bears, like a bear, un oso, los osos. But I guess in people in Chicago, we pronounce it the Bears, the D-A Bears, the Bears. And the Chicago Bulls would be the Bulls, but we say the Bulls. Chicago White Sox would be the Sox, we say the Sox. Chicago Cubs would be the Cubs, we say the Cubs. So the Bears, the Bulls, the Sox, the Cubs. Or in the Chicago Blackhawks, we say the Hawks, but it sounds to other people, we say the Hawks, right? So those are different things you have to be aware of when you hear, when you recognize you're speaking from someone from Chicago. I did study abroad in Argentina a few years ago, and I told one of the guys, he was from Argentina, there was this international event, international night, and I was there. And I think we were talking in Spanish. I said, "Yeah, I'm from Chicago." And then he said, "Oh, Chicagoans talk like this." And he said he kind of mimicked the accent that we use. Um, I usually don't speak with the accent. I know there's a lot of people that speak with the Chicago accent. Here's a way you can tell someone's most likely from Chicago and not from, let's say, California. So from California, they would say, "My mom is here." Mom. You see the pronunciation of mom, M-O-M? Mom, mom. But in Chicago, the mom, M-O-M, we would say mom, mom. My mom is here. My mom, my dad, my mom. That's how some Chicagoans pronounce mom or dad. Mamá o papá en español. So there you go. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta pronto. Hola, hola. Quiero hablar sobre los deportes en los Estados Unidos. So let's talk about American sports. Well, what do you think about sports when you think about the United States? I'll give you a couple seconds. 1, 2, 3. I'm sure you said football. American football. Don't say American football. When you're talking to an American, don't say, "Are you familiar with American football?" They would know you're not a native English speaker. Just say, "What's your favorite football team?" And then they would answer with if they have a favorite team or not. There are various football teams: the Philadelphia Eagles, Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, Miami Dolphins, Los Angeles Chargers, Las Vegas Raiders, Green Bay Packers, New York Giants, New York Jets, Atlanta Falcons, Houston Texans, Dallas Cowboys. Remember, some people say Dallas Cowboys are America's team, so that's another story for another day. America's team. But anyways, there are a lot of sports. So American football is one of the main sports. So we just call it football in the United States of America. It's such a big sport. Even I played it for 6 years when I was younger. 4 years in youth football, 2 years in high school, that people play it in youth football, maybe as young as 7 or 8 years old. Kids are playing American football or football. And then also in high school, they play on Friday nights. There might be a show called Friday Night Lights, so it's big, and especially in states like Texas or Florida or California and southern states. And then on Saturdays, it's college football. So there's colleges like Miami, University of Miami, Miami Hurricanes, University of Oregon, Oregon Ducks, and University of Texas, Texas Longhorns. So Saturdays are for college football the whole day. So in the morning, it's mostly in the day. It's mostly teams on the East Coast for Eastern time. Then in the middays, it can be East or West Coast. And at the evening, during the evening, they're usually West Coast teams that are playing, such as Arizona Wildcats or Oregon Ducks. They'll be playing on the West Coast. Then Sundays are for NFL. NFL stands for National Football League. And the NFL has those NFL teams that I mentioned, like the Bears, the Packers, the Lions, the Vikings. And these teams play and are it's usually on Sundays, and that's the whole day on Sunday too. I think 12 o'clock Eastern time, then 3 o'clock Eastern time, then 7 o'clock Eastern time. Then at the end, there's also on Mondays, there's usually a Monday night game. And then later on in this season, we call it a season. And later on in the season, there's the Thursday night games. So you have all these different games just with football alone. And the thing about American sports, especially with the professionals, is that every season there's a sport. So in the fall, it's football. In the fall, spring, it's basketball, hockey. In the summer, spring, summer, it's baseball. And so, yeah, so we have all those different sports. I think, did I say basketball, hockey, baseball, football. And yeah, so let's go to basketball. So basketball, I'm sure you're familiar with Michael Jordan, the Bulls, Scottie Pippen, the Bulls. Right now, LeBron James and his different teams that he's been on. and there's a lot of other great NBA players who have played throughout the years. And the NBA teams, the Bulls, the Heat, the Suns, the Celtics, the Lakers, the Pacers, the Bucks. So there's a lot of teams out there, and yeah, basketball is very big in the what we call the inner city. That's like the poor neighborhoods in the United States, and a lot of these kids play basketball in school, high school, and then the thing about college is that they can get scholarships, and this is the same for football and other sports in the United States. You get a scholarship, meaning you don't have to pay for college as long as you play for this sports team. So you're playing for this sports team, and you get the opportunity to use your talent. You travel with the team for away games. You play against different teams, and you look to try to win a national championship. So isn't that great that these students can use their sporting abilities to get an education and also have fun at the same time? Other sports we have are soccer, which you would say football in tu país, right? We have soccer. We have hockey, which is very big in Canada. And I'm sure you know that Canada, they speak English and some people speak French. And then, so we have all these professional sports, and there are other sports too, like tennis, lacrosse, and others. But the main big four sports are football, basketball, baseball, and hockey. Those are the big four sports in the United States. I can't wait to see you in the next lesson. Hasta pronto. Hola, 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 bienvenidos. Ahora quiero hablar sobre mi experiencia aprendiendo y cómo aprendí el español. So let's talk about my experience on how I learned Spanish. You can see I was able to say that in Spanish with ease, with no problem. So what was my experience? Well, it started a long time ago. When I was around 4 or 5 years old, my mom bought me these 2 books for little kids from the company Berlitz. And one book was in Spanish. One book was in French to learn Spanish and French. Now, they weren't complete books. They were basic books to learn the alphabet, numbers 1 through 10, basic phrases. And I went through both of the books. I actually liked the Spanish more because it was easier to understand. I'm not sure if you've ever tried learning French, quizás sí, quizás no. And French, the language, some of their sounds are silent, right? If you're familiar with French, I won't go into detail, but if you're learning French, you know what I'm talking about. With Spanish, everything is more or less the same. I started Spanish so long ago. It was when the ch, the che, was still in the alphabet. The nye was still in the alphabet. The r and the eye, those 4 letters were still in the alphabet. So when I learned the alphabet, a b c che, I learned it like that instead of a b c d, right? So I learned it, and I can obviously say a b c d. There's no problem, but I learned a b c che first, and then the language changed, and now you say a b c d. So that was my first taste of Spanish. Then when I was younger, maybe under 10, my grandfather, he bought me another book. It was with courses and cassettes, 4 cassettes. Now this one was more all-encompassing language course, but it wasn't for little kids. I was still a little kid, maybe 8 or 9 years old. And so I dabbled with it a little bit. It was more, I think it was called Express Track to Spanish. I think it was produced by Barron's. And it was for adults, just for maybe someone 15 or 16 or 17 or 18 years old, an adult, and just someone who had more experience with the language. And I kept that course for a long time, and I looked back on it later, and I saw how advanced some of the concepts were. I remember being in maybe 4th or 5th grade, and I did a Spanish class for a few weeks, and I remember there was a teacher, I think she was from Mexico, and she taught us some Spanish. But then when I got into 7th grade, I would ask my aunt, can you help me with this Spanish word? Can you help me with the Spanish word? And one day, we decided to go to a bookstore, and we bought a course. And this is when I really started learning Spanish. I was 12 years old. So unofficially was when I was maybe 4 or 5 with the the first books that my mom got me. But officially is when I said, you know what? And the reason I wanted to learn Spanish was if I travel to another country, I want to be able to enjoy my time there, and I don't want to be able to I don't want to be swindled, like taken advantage of. I'm not saying Spanish speakers are bad, but you know how you go to some other countries and there's the American price and there's the local price, or you want to be able to know if people are talking about you. That's the American thing. Or is this person talking about me in their second language? I hope not. So that's how I was at 12. So my aunt bought me a course. It was 4 cassettes, 1 book, and I think it was from Berlitz or Barron's, one of the two. They both start with B's, and it said to learn in 10 minutes a day. Now, the only thing about the verbs is that they were in present tense form. So I learned how to say yo llevo, yo voy, yo hago, yo veo, and then the conjugations in the present tense. Voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. They had vice because Spaniards. So I learned that, and then one day I thought to myself, listen, I want to learn these verbs. So what I did, I bought flashcards. I bought maybe 10 to 20 flashcards. One side I wrote in English, to go. On the other side, ir. I go. One side. The other side, yo voy. You go. Tu vas. Do you know what I'm saying? So I did that with around 20 different verbs. And every day, not for a long time, maybe for 5 to 10 minutes, I would just test myself. And I would say, okay, this side says ir, the other side says to go. This side says salir, the other side says to leave. This side says to eat, this side says comer. You get what I'm saying? So that's what I did to help me learn the Spanish language. Other things that I did, I would watch TV in the language. And then this was also supplemented by me taking classes from 7th grade and 8th grade. There were 6-week classes that I took. But then from 9th to 12th, I took classes in Spanish the whole year. There were my classes. I mentioned I took classes in biology and sciences and math and other things of that nature. But I took Spanish also all of high school. And I also worked fast food restaurant. And that really helped me hone in on my Spanish language skills. Besides that, I majored in Spanish. Major means that was my program of study in college. So I took a Don Quixote class. I took Spanish writing, Spanish conversation. And then I also studied abroad in Argentina for 5 months in Buenos Aires. Universidad de Belgrano was the college that I went to. So they got to a point where I knew Spanish, and now I don't say I'm learning Spanish. I just say yo hablo español. I know Spanish. I speak Spanish. So that was my journey with the Spanish language. So a lot of years. So the question you may be asking me is, how long did it take for me to become fluent? I would say throughout those years, it maybe took a few years because I was doing other things. I wasn't just doing Spanish. I was living life as a teenager, right? Going to school and doing sports, doing theater. But for you, if you have an intermediate or advanced knowledge of English right now, try what I did with Spanish with those flashcards. Try that. I'm sure you'll learn a lot more. And I would say it'll take a few months. Give yourself 3 to 6 months and you can see the improvement. And I can't wait to see you in the next lesson. Hasta pronto. Hola, hola, hola. Quiero hablar sobre la televisión y la red, el internet, cómo aprender idiomas usando estos métodos. So let's talk about TV and internet and how to better your English using TV and internet. So if you live outside the United States, I recommend you going on the internet, use YouTube, right? We have American channels, which I'm sure you're familiar with, MTV, ABC, CBS, Fox, right? We have those channels. Go on the internet, type in abc.com, cnn.com, and you'll see different information. CNN has news 24/7. That's an expression we use, 24/7, which means all day, every day, 24/7, right? So you have the opportunity to go to these websites and see real spoken English, watch videos in English, and also read different writings in the language, read different articles, as we say, in the English language. So give yourself that opportunity to do so. That's the biggest thing. Internet. Use YouTube. This is what I do, to learn other languages. Use YouTube. Go to CNN's YouTube channel, ABC's YouTube channel. And you may say, well, I don't want to watch CNN or ABC. Right. Let's say you're interested in Taylor Swift or another singer or another rapper or a basketball player or a baseball player. Just go type in their name on YouTube and you can watch them being interviewed in English. Isn't that great? Or you can just type in YouTube English conversation with natives. And you can watch people, native speakers, speaking the English language. There's so many opportunities for you, right? Take advantage of it. Whatever you want to learn in English. That's the great thing about English, is that it's the biggest global language, foreign language. I know Mandarin is the biggest language because native speakers, but English is the biggest language that people want to learn. People from China want to learn English. People from Korea want to learn English. Indonesia want to learn English. You as a Spanish speaker, tú quieres hablar en inglés con fluencia, right? So we know that English is all over the internet. I think the biggest language on the internet is English. There are people in the Netherlands, people in Germany, people in Sweden, Switzerland, who search things in English on a daily basis. Now, for you as a Spanish speaker, you may just search most of your stuff in Spanish. I remember this, and I said Spain because I was thinking about something that I want to talk about now. At one of my previous jobs, I had a coworker, and she would search the internet in Spanish all the time, but we worked in English. When I first saw that, I thought it was weird, but I thought to myself, she's actually from Spain. She just moved here maybe within the last couple of years, and she searches in Spanish if she has a question about something. Now, the Latinos from the United States who were born and raised in the United States, guess what language they searched in? English. Me, knowing Spanish and Portuguese, guess what language I tend to search things in? English. So that's what you have to do too. Whatever you want to find out, I want to find out how to cook this recipe, search it in English. Brownies, English. If you want to learn more about a sport, English. If you want to learn about what's going on in the United States, search it in English. Just that one little trick. Change your searching from Spanish to English, and you will see your progress. Now, will you see your progress day one? No. But things add up. Day 1, day 2, day 10, day 20, day 50, day 60, day 80, day 90. That's 3 months of searching in English. And then you'll know where to search. You'll find different things. In English, we say the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole is like, let's say you search something right here, then it brings you here, 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 here. 10 days ago, you searched this thing, but now you've gotten here, and it's like, wow, like how did I go down the rabbit hole? How did I start learning this or that? So search in English. Whatever you want to do, it's going to help you a lot. Te veo en el próximo video. Hasta pronto. Ahora quiero hablar de mis trabajos anteriores. So let's talk about the jobs I've had here in the United States. So I've had a lot of jobs. I've had maybe 10 to 15 different jobs during my time. The first one I had was just holding up a sign for an apartment complex for 2 hours every Saturday or every Sunday. I think it was making $20 an hour, which is not that much. You're only making $40 a week. And it was in the cold weather in Chicago for an apartment complex. Another job I had was an umpire for baseball. So umpires are the people that like the referees, los arbitros, but for baseball. And I call the balls and the strikes And it was for maybe the kids were maybe 10 or 11 years old, and I might have been 18 or 19 at that time. And yeah, it was a great opportunity, and we got paid at the end of the season, and so that was fun. The other job I had was fast food restaurant, and this was the opportunity where I had the opportunity to speak in Spanish with multiple people from Mexico or Argentina, Central American countries, and I spoke to them in Spanish. And a lot of them only spoke Spanish or spoke little English. So, how can this help you with your English speaking journey? Well, try to find a job where you can use the English language on a daily basis. You may not use it the whole 8 hours, but even if you have a job where you're using English 1 hour out the day, that's great because that's why you're here, to better your English language skills. Now, it's even better if you have a job where that's all you use is English. And it depends where you live. Every country is different. If you work in tourism, you may be around English speakers because you may meet somebody who's from Denmark or who's from China that's visiting your country and they may not know Spanish. But if they know English and you know English, voila, now you two can speak English together. I know there's different jobs out there, call centers, where you're on the phone speaking to someone in English or Spanish. There's other jobs, maybe as a waiter or a waitress or a server. In the United States, we say, yeah, waiter, waitress, server. Those words are interchangeable. Or a host. A host is the person that seats you to where you want to sit at your restaurant. Okay, so there's different jobs, different opportunities. Now, another job that I had was working in adult education for ESL, which is English as a second language, and GED, which is for a high school diploma. And that's for students who didn't finish high school, but they went to earn their GED. So English as a second language. That was fun because I had the opportunity to speak with people from all over. There were Russian speakers, Polish speakers, Spanish speakers, French speakers. Spanish speakers were the most, obviously, because most of the foreign languages in the United States, most of the people are from Spanish-speaking countries. So I was able to use my Spanish on day in and day out, just helping people. And it was to the point where they would just come up to me and say, "Oh, hablas español?" And I would just say, "Sí." And we would continue just talking Spanish, and I would help them. Now, some people did know English, but a lot of people felt comfortable in their own language. So that's the same with you with English. So you may feel that you don't know that much English, but an American or Brit or Jamaican, if they visit your country, they may not know that much Spanish at all. Not every American is like me that knows how to speak Spanish. Confluencia. Oh, sí, confluencia, ¿verdad? Right? So not every American speaks Spanish like me. Con fluidez, yo quiero decir. So not everyone speaks Spanish like me, but they may only know a couple words, or they may not know any Spanish at all. So at that point, it's up to you to speak English, and you can use your English speaking abilities that you've learned in life, in different classes, in different TV and internets, like I mentioned earlier, books. There's so many opportunities for you out there to use the English language. I also worked in another role where I would give speeches in Spanish, and I did a PowerPoint presentation in Spanish. I would go to Spanish-speaking churches here in the United States, and I would talk to them about our organization to persuade them to want to go to our schools so they can get a better education. So I suggest, if you want to improve English, take the necessary steps and try to use it at your job. I'll see you in the next lesson. Hasta pronto. Hola, hola. Quiero hablar sobre los idiomas aquí en los Estados Unidos. Let's talk about languages in the United States. So besides English, which we know is the main language in the US, what do you think is the second biggest language in the United States? I'll give you 3 seconds. You've guessed it, Spanish. And you speak Spanish, so you will have no problem speaking Spanish in certain areas of the United States. Not everywhere. Most places, most big cities, I would say, like the Chicago's, the Los Angeles. We say LA, the LA's, the New York's, Miami, definitely, South Florida. You have no problem speaking Spanish. Maybe Houston, maybe other places also. So there's other languages in the United States, especially in Chicago. We have Polish, we have Russian, we have Greek, Italian. I think the people from the Philippines speak Tagalog, and yeah, in Massachusetts and South Florida, there's a lot of Portuguese speaking people, or Haitian Creole in South Florida, Cape Verdean Creole in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and I think Hebrew in New York, Arabic in certain areas of Michigan, Armenian in Southern California, Cantonese, Mandarin in California and San Francisco area. So there's so many languages. How could that benefit you when you come to the United States? Well, you can be around people that speak English as a native language, or people that are from other language groups and that will speak their language, but you can speak English with them. Now, don't become discouraged about the fact that there's so many Spanish speakers in the United States. There are a lot of Spanish speakers in the United States, but there are way more English speakers in the United States. So come to the United States and use the English language. Now, let's say you're one of those people who's uncomfortable with using English. Well, luckily for you, for Spanish speakers, we have Univision and Telemundo. I'm sure you've heard of them. They are two Spanish-speaking TV networks. They show television from Mexico and other countries, most notably Venezuela also. But we have our own productions. I think Telemundo has their own productions in the United States, but with Spanish speakers. And there's so much content to watch, and even online now, streaming. You can stream different programs that are there in Spanish. So that's great for you if you want to still be around the Spanish language. Some people say homesick. Homesick is when you're not sick, but you miss your home. You miss the your country of origin. So let's say you're from Colombia and you miss Colombia. You can watch Univision. If you're from Mexico, you can watch Univision, Telemundo. Even radio stations have Spanish speakers here in the United States. Even concerts. Let's say you're interested in watching a certain musician perform. They do tours in the United States where you can watch them and you can feel like you're back at home to a certain extent. Now, the food may not be 100% authentic as it is in your home country, but you still have options to eat the food. And that's another thing with languages in the United States. There's so many different people from so many different places. If you want Chinese, if you want Eastern European, if you want Brazilian, there's Brazilian churrascos. There's so many different places that you can go and get different type of food. Definitely if you want to just enjoy the American diet, the pizza, the hot dogs, the hamburgers, the fries, you can definitely do that. So as far as the languages go in the United States, the main languages, I would say English and Spanish are the top two. And depending on where you live, there are other languages. If you want to live in Chicago, then you'll be exposed to Polish and Russian and Hindi, I think, some Indian languages, Arabic. There's a street in Chicago called Devon Street. And it's where not all, but a lot of people from India or the Middle East live. And you'll see signs of restaurants in their language. Even in other areas of Chicago, there'll be Cyrillic. Cyrillic is like the Russian or Ukrainian alphabet. So you'll see the Russian alphabet in some stores. That's how immigration here is in the United States. And I'm sure that's how it is in other major cities in the United States, not just Chicago, where you see different languages, not just English. And of course, if you're somewhere like Miami or Chicago, Los Angeles, you will see Spanish. So don't be alarmed when you see your language in the United States. It's a cool thing. But if you do want to speak English, be sure to befriend different people. Go to meetup.com, go to their app and find something that you're interested in, and be sure to meet up with Americans who speak English and who have same interests as you. I'll see you in the next video. Hasta pronto.